Welcome to another episode of Erik Wait Whiskey Studies, and in this video, going to talk about Ardnamurchan Distillery and do a review of the Ardnamurchan Cask Strength Highland Single Malt Scotch Whisky. So in April 2024, I made my fourth trip to Scotland. In the previous three trips, I had been as far south in the lowlands as Bladnoch and Annandale, been to Islay twice, been to Isle of Arran, I've been to Campbelltown twice, went through the Springbank Whiskey School, been through the Highlands and Speyside twice, been as far north as Orkney. So on my fourth trip, I wanted to go to the western area of Scotland and over to the islands, including the Isle of Mull, Raasay, Skye, and so forth. Now, I gotta say, to get to Ardnamurchan Distillery is quite an adventure, but that's really what I'm into. I'm into the whiskey adventure. I could stay home and buy bottles, but to see the land, to meet the people, experience the culture, visit a pub to listen to music, go to museums, visit castles, which is one of my favorite things to do, visit standing stones, visit picked stones. So it's much more than Scotch whiskey, it's everything Scotch. And in addition to drinking Scotch, I watch documentaries and videos on the history of Scotland and so forth. The more you know about the people, the place, its history, the more you appreciate why whiskey is what it is and how it reflects, even if it's not a sense of the place in terms of terroir, and it's a reflection of the history and why things are the way they are. So, Western Scotland, Western Highlands, going off into the islands. It has a general character of being peated whiskey, maybe not as heavily peated as the Kildalton Trio, but I think it is still developing a reputation of medium to maybe going into heavier peated whiskeys. Now, you saw I just added 2 teaspoons of water to this because it definitely needs it. It's a young whiskey. Don't know what the age statement is on it, or the age is on it, but definitely needs some water. Now, as I mentioned, one of the things I like to do, in addition to visit distilleries and meeting people, is to visit other sites. Now, to get to Ardnamurchan, a lot of single track road. Now, single track, that means there's no lane for oncoming traffic. If you're on the lane and someone else is on the lane and you're going to meet up, one of you needs to decide to pull over. Generally, people are polite. It's not an issue. But sometimes you got cows, cows, sometimes you got sheep, sometimes you got goats, and sometimes you got a blind corner. And that's when you're off in a distance and you can tell, we got a bend coming up. I just hope and pray there isn't another car or a lorry, a truck we got here in the United States, coming around that corner, because you are not going to see them until they're right on you. So you tend to stay to the right or to the left and just hope and pray. As you slowly sneak up on it, maybe you'll see a shadow or something of a vehicle coming around the corner. And there were some close calls in my travels to the Western Islands. But it's all worth it, not only to visit the distillery, but to stay at a castle. If you're going to go to Ardnamurchan Distillery, I highly, highly, highly recommend checking out Mingary Castle. Stay there if you can, and definitely check out the restaurant. A real high-end, fine quality restaurant. So let me show you my video of my stay at Mingary Castle. So as you saw there, Mingary Castle is an awesome place to visit, and they have a fantastic restaurant. So if you're going to go visit Ardnamurchan Distillery, I highly recommend checking out Mingary Castle. Now, Ardnamurchan Distillery has its own malting floor. It's one of 8 distilleries in Scotland that has its own malting floor. Don't know what percentage they are producing off their own malting floor, but at least some. It's sort of an old school distillery, and even though this whiskey is youthful, I think it's a real high quality. If this is an indication of their other bottles, I have another bottle of Ardnamurchan on my shelf that I haven't opened yet, then this is a distillery to look out for. So let me give you a little brief tour of Ardnamurchan Distillery and tell you a little bit about the distillery and this bottle. Ardnamurchan Distillery is located on the Ardnamurchan Peninsula of Lochaber in the Highlands of Scotland. The distillery was founded in 2014, and the current owner is Adolphi. They have their own malting floor. They use a Lauder mash tun. They have wooden washbacks. And they have 1 wash still and 1 spirit still. This bottle of Ardnamurchan cask strength was aged in a 90% bourbon cask, 10% sherry cask. It is unchill filtered, has natural color, and is bottled at 58.1% alcohol by volume. So immediately a big, huge puff of peat. The peat smoke is heavier on this than let's say at Rasay or Talisker, comparable or maybe even a little bit more than say Torvig. I get some herbal note, a little bit of black licorice, a little bit of chocolate, some nice spicy notes there, some vanilla. These spicy notes with the herbal notes, it almost reminds me of sort of like a natural root beer. Vanilla, a nuttiness, a little bit of a saltiness on the palate. Even though I added some water, it does still have a youthful bite, that tingleness. The tingling on your tongue. Or as I like to call it, a tingleness. When you get to be my age and you forget words, you just start making them up. It is sweet all the way through. It is rich. There's chocolate, there's a saltiness, there's a nuttiness, there's definite honey, caramel, chocolate, vanilla, maybe apples or grilled apples. And it has a moderate amount of transition from the front and the middle into the finish. What lingers is the smoke, the spice. There's that root beer character. I know if your exposure with root beer is Fanta or stuff that comes in a can, if you haven't had a natural root beer from maybe a nature store, natural store, if you haven't had one, check one out. I like to blend natural root beer with a rye or high rye bourbon for a cocktail, but there's more of a natural root character, or sarsaparilla. I don't think it's sarsaparilla in Europe or in the UK, but it's a thing here in the United States, very similar to root beer. But there's this distinctive herbal root and spice character on the finish, intermingled with the smoke and the chocolate character. It has a creamy and silky mouth texture. If you can take a whiskey And say you got it in your mouth, and here's your tongue, and you have something between your tongue and your palate, and you move your tongue towards your mouth, and the whiskey doesn't just flow off your tongue like water, but it is almost a squishiness, almost slightly, almost not quite gelatinous, but it's getting there, like just before it's become sort of gelatinous character. I mean, there's some thickness to it, there's a heft and weight to it. I really, really like that. It has more of a mouth coating feel. This is a nice, hefty, round mouth coating whiskey with a nice transition of sweetness up front with some honey, nuts, chocolate on the back end, that sort of herbal root beer character, and some nice smoke. The smoke doesn't overwhelm anything. It's even on from the neck pour, it wasn't like you're just getting overwhelmed with smoke. It's really well integrated with all the characteristics. It does have that tingleness, that little bit of that youth bite to it, in addition, of course, to the alcohol being over 58% alcohol by volume. But I've had plenty of high ABV whiskeys that didn't have this kind of bite. So I think it's got that sharpness from the youth. I think this is an absolutely superb whiskey. I shopped around or looked around online on Google, and it is available in some retail stores. So you can find it out there. You don't necessarily have to go to the distillery. In fact, some of what I found online were actually selling this for under $100. If you can get this, either order it and have it shipped to your house for under $100. Of course, by the time you get shipping and taxes and all that cred, that gets you up to about $125 just from all the shipping costs. But if you can get one at a local store, and particularly if you can get it for $100, this is a must buy. I would definitely grab a bottle. I think it's got a nice layers of complexity to it, and it's got a fantastic finish, and I love that sort of mouth coating feel. What am I give it in terms of a score? I'm gonna go 92 points. 92 points. If it was a little older and had more of an intensity in the mid palate, something different going on in the mid palate with giving a little bit more depth, I'd probably bump it up even higher. So as it is, this is a contender for my top 10 for 2024, an absolutely spectacular whiskey. If you've had a bottle from Ardnamurchan, let me know down below. Tell me what you thought of it. Let me know what bottle you had, what was the ABV, and if you had the cask strength, definitely let me know. All right, that's it for this review. If you subscribe to this channel, I want to thank you very much. If you've not yet subscribed but you like watching my videos, I would greatly appreciate it. If you would subscribe, ring the bell to be notified for when I go live or post a new video. And until next time, Slàinte. Hey, don't forget to subscribe and check out these other whiskey videos.